On February 4th, 1963, the Long Beach newspapers appeared, and they carried a headline that said, "A wife predicts the crash of the plane carrying her husband in her dream." It was a nightmare that Mrs. Wallach saw in her sleep, and it dominated the thoughts of the lady and caused her increasing anxiety. So, on Sunday morning, February 3rd, she called the office of the airline company that her husband works for. But they told her that the plane does not have any trouble, and that her husband will arrive with his plane at San Francisco International Airport the same morning. The wife put the headset on the phone and let out a sigh of relief, but this relief changed completely when she suddenly remembered that San Francisco International Airport accepts airplanes across the bay, and that she saw the plane in her dream hitting the surface of the water before it crashed and burst into flames. Above the ground, her anxiety returned to her more strongly. She made a phone call to the company's office in San Francisco, and Mrs. Wallach was on the line when the plane arrived at the airport, and her husband was its pilot, and entered the airport and crashed into the ground, and a large fire broke out, and 5 people died from the plane's crew, and 4 remained and were rescued. Her husband was among them. She saw the crash exactly as it was, but the only difference between the dream and the reality is that in her dream she saw the plane hit the water before it reached the ground, while in reality it did not touch the water, but burned out of the water and caught fire. Long Beach newspapers said that the woman saw the crash of her husband's plane in her dreams 5 days before it happened, and the story from the beginning was very strange and has no logical explanation. Mrs. Wallach saw in her dream that the 4-engine plane, flying close to the surface of the water and close to the coastal strip, but before it reached the ground it hit the surface of the water, lost its balance, and turned into a mass of flames. This is how Mrs. Joan Wallach saw the dream in front of her. She was a resident of Long Beach. She saw the type of plane and saw it clearly in the dream, which made her wake up from her sleep. It was just after 3 in the morning of January 29th, 1962. Mrs. Wallach tried to reassure herself that it was nothing more than a frightening nightmare, but her fear only became more terrifying when she remembered that the plane she had seen in the dream was the same plane on which her husband was working, as her husband was on a flight for a well-known air transport company. But where is he now? Is he okay or not? She didn't know anything, but the only thing she knew was that the dream in which she saw the plane crash was a very real dream, in a very unusual way, the kind that sticks its details to the memory a lot. She frantically called the office of Silicon Airlines, and they told her that her husband is flying in the air at that time and there are no problems. The company assured her that no accidents had been reported on any of the company's planes, and that her husband's plane was currently flying on the eastern side of the United States, transporting a load of cargo, and that it would return to the West Coast after a few days. But Mrs. Wallach couldn't. She told the story to her family, neighbors, and friends, but all of them laughed at her and treated her with disdain, and others laughed at her fears. But no one forgot that she described a certain type of plane that had a complete accident, and no one knows the explanation for what happened and how the lady saw the plane crash and really crashed.